Welcome to another episode. Welcome to another episode of Gamecocks Talk with Captain Will. I am your man, Captain Will. Ladies and gentlemen, I got the one and only Muggsy Bogues in the house. What is up, my bro?
It's a pleasure, Cap. Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. I've been a huge fan of yours. Huge. So when I had an opportunity to say I'm gonna talk to Muggsy Bogues, I was like, oh, come on, I can't turn this down. This is awesome right here. Couple things out the gate. You had me let's go backwards a little bit. When the Hornets came to the area, all right, I was like 13 years old.
Okay.
13 years old. So I was a huge fan back then. I'm a huge fan now, and I will continue to be a huge fan of yours for the rest of my days. Let me just say it like that.
That warms my heart, brother. That warms my heart.
I appreciate you, man.
Excuse me. Well, this cold is killing me right now. But I appreciate that, man. Having the opportunity to come here in Charlotte in '88, as you alluded to, was the changing of the guard for me. It was like a match made in heaven. Even though I was drafted from Washington Bullets, right in my backyard, and it was great being home playing for the team that that's literally right in your backyard. But I think once I came here, it's where my career really blossomed. And I think the understanding of being surrounded with the right people in the right organization allowed that to blossom.
So, Muggsy, let me ask you a question. So, you were drafted number 12.
Yes.
Okay. Drafted by the Bullets. That was a draft with Scottie Pippen and David Robinson and so forth. Got drafted by the Bullets. This after your amazing career at Wake Forest. Now, you from the B-More area.
Yes.
How did you feel when you got drafted by the Bullets?
I mean, the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders that day. Going through my journey, and back then, breaking down the barriers, which everybody wanted big guards, and just having that opportunity, being able to come to Wake Forest and establish, a type of setting and where you can put yourself on the national stage on a nightly basis and get that type of feedback to where if you belong or not. And I think folks had the opportunity to see me as well as the NBA. And I think that would really, started that really realistic belief that I can make it to that next level. And, I had that understanding, and regardless of my size, it's all about what I was carrying through my mind, between my ears. And I think a lot of folks get caught up in that. And I understood that position. And that's what really allowed me to propel to reach the highest pinnacle of my career.
That's amazing. It really is, because like when you were at Wake Forest, when you finished playing ball, you led the ACC in steals and assists. I mean, Let's be real. At your size, dominating these cats. Tell me about some of the rivalries you had in college.
Oh, we had some great rivalries. I mean, NC State, of course, was one of them with Spud Webb being down there and Terry Gannon and those guys, Charles Shackelford. And then, of course, Mark Price at Georgia Tech. They had John Sally and, Dwayne Farrell. They had a crew up there. And then, of course, go down the other street down in Carolina with Kenny Smith and the boys. So that Duke. And, Carolina, then can't forget about Duke. Because at the time, that Big Four was really what it was. Wake Forest, NC State, Duke, and Carolina. They consider that Big Four one of the biggest rivalries in the ACC at the time. Of course, you got so many teams in there now, but it was only a handful of teams at the time. It was 8. And having that rivalry during our time, it was special. It was priceless. And playing against some of the best players around in the country, and then you had the opportunity to play them on the next level, which was an NBA, to where a lot of guys some of them became Hall of Famers. So it was a great, challenge for me, at least to measure myself where I belong.
Speaking of the rivalries that you had in college and then going to the NBA and such, it was some dogs. It was some dogs, especially during that time. That was the gold, in my opinion, the golden years of basketball. Y'all went at it. Some of the rivalries that you had that you with Mark Price and with Muggsy, excuse me, with Spud and so forth going into the NBA, did you guys rekindle that stuff in the league?
Well, of course, we was great to see each other for one, because you battle, with each other and during your collegiate level. I mean, go to collegiate time, and then all of a sudden, of course, every player, that's the ultimate goal, to reach the NBA, to reach the highest pinnacle of that, whatever that particular sport you're striving for. And that for us, it was the NBA and basketball. And then seeing some of the guys that you played through in college and seeing them on the other side, I mean, was a testament, because you knew that only 1% of those type of players was only going to get that opportunity. So being able to be in that type of company and being that type of fraternity was special, especially for me.
All right, let's go backwards. All right, so who put the ball in your hand? Who was your guiding light and putting the ball in Muggsy in your hands?
I was 4 years old when I got my very first basketball from my godmother. It was red, white, and blue back then, and it was such a pretty object. I could not wait to take it down on the basketball court. It was bigger than myself, of course, but once I got there, I was in for the rude of awakening, because the kids was kids, and it
Yeah.
was cool. They had all the short jokes they can possibly think of come my way. Sitting on the curb, you can let your feet dangle. You be the last person feel the raindrops and so forth. So they went at it, and it pissed me off, and go home crying to my mom. And she knew nothing about the game of basketball, but motherly advice. She just didn't like to see her baby upset. So
Yeah.
she gave me that motherly advice that you tired, nobody can be an expert in your life. You want to play basketball, go out there, you play. They don't know your capabilities, your potential. They sure can't measure your heart, son. So you go out there, you play. And that just gave me the courage to keep going out there and take all that cruelty. But my blessing came was when I was 5 years old, when I met my recreation director, the guy that directed our recreation back in our neighborhood, Mr. Leon Howard. He took myself
Mm.
and Reggie Williams under his wing, and he taught us the game from inside and out. We were like two little sponges soaking up all that information. And then, of course, we was fortunate enough to go all the way. The two of us was in that same draft in the 1987.
That's unbelievable. And the documentary that that folks you can talk a little bit about the documentary that was amazing about you guys. That was, I mean, everybody needs to see it. That is like must see TV for you guys.
Baltimore boys, the Baltimore boys.
Baltimore boys. That
Yeah.
is it, brother. Okay, my childhood, yourself, Morning, Larry Johnson, that whole dynamic that put Charlotte during that time. And I tell my wife, I was like, hey, back in the day, Charlotte was everything.
Yeah.
Selling out every time. Y'all were it. Y'all was must see TV. Tell me about the communication and the kinship that you had with those guys.
Well, that fellowship that we still to this day. You build that type of bond with one another, especially when you're competing and you're going against the giants of the world, and you got your back against the wall, and you want those type of guys in your corner. I mean, that's part of the relationship that we was fortunate to build throughout our time together. The Del Currys, as you alluded to, the Lonzo Mourning, the Larry Johnson, Kendall Gills, and you take it all the way back, Kenny Gass and Rex Chapman, and you go all the way back, for my teammates. Those are guys that we still to this day stay in contact with, and those are the guys that you truly call your friends. And that's what's special. Even though we was, people saw it as our job, which we as a game, we saw it as our job as well as a game that we pursued ever since a kid, dreaming that one day we wanted to, play this at the highest level. So it was a fantasy world, but at the same time, it was a job. We understood it and treated it as such.
Now, obviously, this is a Gamecock podcast, and then we fast forward after your playing career, you got into coaching, and you coached the Charlotte Sting for I think it was 1 year.
Yeah, and it was like 1 year, yeah, basically 10 games in 1 year.
Now, Dawn? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Dawn was on her way. She got traded during that season.
Was gone. She was gone already.
She was already gone.
Yeah,
Dawn was already gone.
She was done.
So there was no contact with Dawn. None of those things. Have y'all ran into the same circles over time?
Well, Dawn was around when the Hornets was around, when the Sting was around. And back in that time, we was around, and because George Shen owned the team, and they came around But then I had left right around in '97, and they were still part of the city, which I was still here, on the off season. And so I always stayed in contact with Don and and always respected them during that time. And then, of course, I had the opportunity to coach that Allison Feaster, who happened to play with Don Staley.
Decent, yeah.
Yeah, so she was one of the members on our team that I was fortunate enough to coach when we was able to regain the sting back. Once the team left to go to New Orleans, we was able to get it back when it was the Bobcats. So, um, I've always been a big fan of Dawn. In terms of how she played, because she was small, considered as one of us in that space when she was coming through college in Virginia. And I always watched her, even though I was in the lead, I always kept up with women basketball and watched her career and seen how much she flourished during her playing days.
You know, you're like the de facto mayor here in Charlotte. But I also understand that you received some type of award given by the mayor just recently. Can you talk expound a little bit about that?
Oh man, I was so honored. Then was surprised at the same time to where they proclaimed the day for the Muggsy Bogues Family Foundation Day, and the things that we do in our community, trying to provide this type of service for underserved kids, families, I should say, have an ambition to want to work with their hands, to go to a trade school, a trade program. So
Yeah,
we try and provide that service for them, as well as feed the families. We got a lot of families that face food insecurities, and being able to provide this type of service for them to be able to put food on the table and not have their families have to think about whether they need to pay this bill or eat. We don't want them to have to go through that type of situation. So our organization provide that type of service for those type of families.
that's straight up amazing, man. That's amazing. Now you and I are partnered up with Michael Gardner with Hydrate Heroes. And can you talk a little bit about Hydrate Heroes and what it provides?
Oh man, Hydrate Hero is a health lifestyle type of drink. It's a plant based product, no sugar, no caffeine. Have a lot of ingredients that is very beneficial to your health. Electrolytes, vitamin D, magnesium. You got mushrooms, and as well as alma fruit stuff that especially with the elderly. All this chronic hydration that they deal with. This is the ways to where we can continue be able to live a healthy lifestyle. And by, as I say, drink healthy, eat healthy, ultimately you will be healthy. And so I'm so grateful that we partnered with Michael and Hydrate Heroes and some of the guys that's involved with our product. Because it's especially at this stage. And I grew up in the ages where Kool-Aid was our thing. All that
Yes.
sugar, we thought that, hey, if it's sweet
Yeah.
enough, it's going to be good. But
Yeah.
we realized it wasn't healthy, and in our community has so many obesity, so many diabetes issues that goes on, underlying issues, and we try to prevent that worldwide, regardless of what community you come from, what age or gender. We try to provide a healthy lifestyle by presenting this type of product.
It's a terrific product. I'm glad to be partnered with you, and it's gonna provide a lot. It's gonna help with the military and civilians, just everyone, sports in general. And Muggsy, brother, it's been an honor to talk with you and just give me a few minutes to live up my kid dream, brother. I'm not lying to you, man. I'm just smiling on the inside. So thank you so much for a few minutes and sharing with me. And I hope to get you on again soon, bro.
Captain, appreciate you having me on, buddy, and I look forward to one of these days we meet in person. And
Yes.
welcome to the team.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Have a good one. Thank
You as
you.
well, partner.
Be blessed.
You as well.